Hi everyone, welcome to the second video in our series about building an enterprise resource planning app or ERP app on Bubble. In this video, what we're going to cover is one of the most common pieces of functionality in any ERP system, which is records management. ERP systems are very data driven, and if you think about organizing data in spreadsheets for an entire organization's operations, it can be very overwhelming, it can be very dense, it can be hard to see the statuses of things and the relationships between all of the data. So when you're building an ERP application, your job is really to make that data more user-friendly, more accessible, easier to gather insights from them so the organization can make smarter decisions about their operations, about their marketing, their finances, all of that. So in this video, we're going to look at a demo of a sample record management system for an ERP system for an organization that works with job tickets, work orders that have assignments to team members, they have due dates, they have amounts that need to be invoiced, custom invoice numbers. So we'll touch on a few of those niche customizations so you can see how you would approach that. So this is going to give you a good look at what's possible, where you can really customize things for your ERP system. So it's all about records management today. Now, if you're new around here, my name is Gabby and I am the co-founder of Coaching No Code Apps, where we help non-technical entrepreneurs build custom apps to build app-based businesses or grow their existing businesses all without coding. All right, so let's dive in. I'm going to make my video a little bit smaller here. So let's just take a look at the functionality of this page first, then I'm going to dive into the back end so you can see how it all works and how we brought it together. So this screen is looking at a list of all of the work orders for the organization. Okay, so we have a list here, and at the top level we can see the invoice number for the work order. That's the first three digits. We've got the first three digits of the company name and then the actual number of the invoice, and then in parentheses we have the company name itself. Then we have the user, the team member that has been assigned to this work order with their image there, as well as the status of the work order. So we've got a few different statuses. They each have a color. That way it's easy to identify very quickly, what's overdue, what's currently in progress. And clicking on the edit button here will present the details, a little bit, more information about that work order over on the right, and we can even edit some of these things. Now, if you watched our previous series on marketplaces, we also went into creating listings, creating data with these forms, and being able to show a confirmation message, deleting, working with inputs and everything. So you can also take a look at that to get even more information, different perspective for different industries on how to create data. So we've got a little bit of that here, but we've also got some customizations that are a bit more unique to ERP types of systems. So in this screen here, we're looking at a lot of that same information. The invoice number, I can edit it if I want. I can change the status. So this one here that's canceled, maybe I can put it into in progress, hit save. You'll see that it updates it there. The client and the assigned user, those are both links to other records in our database. Okay, so we're looking at a work order record, but the work order is tied to, there's a relationship to a client record, which is a separate thing, a separate table in our database. Same thing for the team member. This is a user who can log into the system, and check on the status, see what's assigned to them, all of that. We've also got the due date here, just to show, when these things need to be completed. It'll also help us automate status changes if we need to say that something might be overdue, or maybe that something's coming up. The due date can also help us automate notifications, confirmations. We can send emails to the client, to the person who it's been assigned to, with that date logic there. We also have a couple of currency inputs here so that we know what is due for the invoice overall, what's been paid. We can do some calculations, very simple math to determine what's still owed. This can even be broken down further. A work order might have multiple line items, different things that need to contribute to the work order as a whole. So think of, a home renovation project. So you've got the line item for the flooring, then the plumbing, then the paint on the walls. And so each of those will have subtotal items. You can add all of that up. You can absolutely build that into this type of a system, okay? So we've got a couple of buttons here to make some overall changes to the work order. I can cancel it in one click. You notice that it changes the status right there once I did that. Or I can make any adjustments here and just save those details let's say we have already paid 500. Okay, so now my amount owed is calculated in real time there. I'll hit save and it's going to update this. My status was set to in progress, so that's why it changed the status back there. Okay, now just looking for my work orders, if I need to filter things down, let's say I'm a large organization with hundreds of orders, I can filter by status, right? So I can look at everything, maybe that's overdue, and that will surface those things easily for me. Or whatever's in progress, and then beyond that, combine it with another filter. Let's say I'm only interested in things that are in progress and assigned to max. Okay, so it filters it further. Or I want to do a combination of all three. I want to look for in progress for the client Zoombox. Okay, so it pulls up those two assigned to do different people. I can clear my filters out as well. Okay, so that helps me find things more easily. Now let's look at creating a new work order. I've got a button here, and the way that I've set this up is it's showing me a pop-up so that I can first assign this new work order to a client. If I don't have it assigned to a client, I'm not really able to do very much from there. I can't give it an invoice number with a custom invoice scheme there. I can't determine who it's going to be invoiced to. So that's the very first thing. Now I can do one of two things. I can search for an existing client. So let's say Zoombox, we know, is one of them there. And because I was able to find that client, they already in the system, then this is going to tell me what the next order number is going to be. We can see out here kind of behind the pop-up, there's one of them for Zoombox, but there were 2 orders already. So the next one is going to be order number 3. So I'll click on that button and it's automatically going to create this order number 3 for Zoombox. It's unassigned. We have a little default image here to show me that it's unassigned. I can search for a user. So maybe I want to assign this to Ben, and I can say that now it's currently in progress. By default, it starts with a not started status. We'll go ahead and fill the rest out here. Let's say that the due date is December 1st, and maybe the total I know is going to be $2,000. Okay, so I'll hit save. It's going to update that, and now I have my new work order for the Zoombox client. Now I'm going to go back to create another work order here. And let's say I type in a new client name that doesn't exist. They're a brand new client. Let's call them Acme Inc., like this. So now I'm given the option to create a new client before I actually create the new work order. So I'll click on this, and now I'm ready to create order number 1. So when I clicked on that, a new client was created in the system. In fact, I'll take you over to the database here real quick, go to my clients, and we can see Acme was created, and their first invoice number is going to be number 1. Notice that the invoice prefix was automatically calculated. Basically, I'm just taking the first 3 characters there, and I'm changing it all to uppercase so we have some consistency. I'll take you into the logic there in a moment here. But now that we have our client, now I can go ahead and create order number 1. And we have Acme there. There's the order, just like before. Okay. Now, if I wanted to edit information about the client itself, I have a quick little link here. Just by clicking on this text here, you can see as I hover over, I'm underlining it so it's a little bit more obvious to the user that it is clickable. If I select that, okay, it's going to open up a separate pop-up to edit the client details. So I have the company name, which was already filled in for me. I can enter in an actual contact person's name, their first name, their last name. I can change the prefix if I want. Maybe I don't want it to be ACM. Maybe I want it to be AME, with all invoices going forward from there. So I'll show you here. I'll change this to AME. And maybe I want my next invoice number to actually start at the 200 level. Okay, so I can make those adjustments, and let's create a new work order here for Acme. Notice that here, create order number 200 is ready to go. So I'll click on that, and you'll see that the invoice prefix here is now AME for that one after I've made that change. Everything before that will stay, as it was. If you want it to retroactively, update all of those prefix characters, you absolutely can do that. You can say, hey, I'm changing the prefix. I need to go back to all of my previous work orders and make that adjustment as well. You can set up a system to do that kind of bulk edit. Okay, so those are all of the pieces of functionality that we've implemented here. We have a way to create new work orders with an existing client. we can create a new client kind of on the fly as we're going as well, and it will kind of create some defaults for us. We can edit our client right from the same window. We can edit our work orders. We're calculating the next invoice number. We can calculate amounts that are due based on what is expected. And we can change statuses. We can filter all of our work orders. So there's just a little bit of everything here. And again, this is tip of the iceberg. There's so much more you can do with records management, but this is definitely a good start for being able to see the data and get to the data in a really user-friendly way. So now I'm going to jump into the editor so we can take a look at how some of these features were put together. So from the UI side, we have a repeating group that is going to show all of our work orders, and we have the constraints based on, our search boxes here for the client, for the assigned person, and the drop down of the status. So if any of those things have a value in there, it'll filter the resulting list of work orders. Okay, and then on the right-hand side, we have just a group container. By default, it's going to show our first work order, but anytime we click on this edit button, it's going to send the data from the repeating group cell over to this group. It's really popular, very common, I should say, piece of functionality is passing data from one element to another. You can even pass data from one page to another page. So here I click on that edit button, I'm just displaying data for that cell's work order into that other group, the edit group on the right hand side. Okay, and the save button is basically going to take all of these different inputs and save it to the record that has been passed to this group. So if we go to the workflow here for my save button, I actually have it highlighted here to make it easy to find. We're going to make a change to that work order, and you can see all of those inputs get saved to that record. We even have a little alert message that says saved right there so that the user knows that something actually happened in the database. Okay, so let's take a look at the pop-up for creating a new work order, because there's a few pieces of functionality happening here. Let's open this up over with this group as well. This is going to have some conditional elements based on what we type into this search box. So this is a search box that lets us search for existing clients. But notice that I'm allowing the user to type things in that are brand new. If a client doesn't exist, we can allow this search box to retain whatever we typed in so that we can use that to create a new client. This is the typed text versus the value. So depending on whether there's a value or typed text, we'll either go ahead and show the button to create the next work order, or we'll show the text to first create the client. Okay, so going into that workflow for creating the client, we know a few things right off the bat. We know that their company name is whatever that typed text was. We're going to preset the prefix for them. Okay, so we'll take the company name that they've entered in, truncate it to the first 3 characters, and then change it to all uppercase so that it's consistent and everything is capitalized there. Okay, so there's a lot you can do with kind of customizing that prefix, and you can use some regular expression. It's a little bit of just finding patterns in a string to maybe pull out all of the vowels, right? You just have the consonants and you take like the first 3 or 4 consonants, popular way of doing prefixes. Or you can do what I've done here, just take the first however many characters. You can set it to lowercase if you need. I have it right here. I did uppercase, lots of different things, and also assuming that they're going to start with invoice number 1. Now we've given them the opportunity to change that starting number if they go to edit the client. Maybe they don't want to start at 1, maybe they want to start at 100 or 1000 or 150 if they're coming from a different system and then just want to carry on with that same system. Okay, so that's going to create the client within this pop-up before they create a new work order. Now, of course, you can also design a separate system for client management in general. Right now, we're just looking at work order management, but you can have a separate area to be more detailed with the clients, create, basically the same type of interface here where you have a list of all of your clients, search for your clients, search for clients by how many projects they have or who has, overdue work orders or overdue invoices, things like that, unpaid invoices. And then be able to edit the clients on the right-hand side. So all of that can absolutely be worked in. Then once the work order is going to be created, so this button here, right? So we'll create that work order. We'll associate the work order with the client. Okay, I'll take you into the data structure here in a moment. We'll link the work order to the client, and then we'll give this actual work order record a new invoice number. And so here we're constructing it. We're putting it together. We're taking the client's invoice prefix, okay, and putting a hyphen in there. I just typed that in. So we have a dynamic expression, a typed in hyphen, and then another dynamic expression to bring it all together into one text string. And the second part here is that next invoice number, right? So we're also defaulting the status to not started, defaulting these amounts to $0 because we don't know yet. But you can also have those inputs in that pop-up so that they can enter in some initial information from the beginning. Really, the only thing that we're collecting from them at the start is just the client. And then because we've now created a work order, we can update the client and say, okay, well now the next invoice after this one, we're going to increment that by 1 so that it's ready for the next one to be saved properly. Once we've created the work order, updated the client's invoice number, we'll reset all the inputs so that the next time we see this form, everything's cleared out, and then we'll pass that data again to the edit group, hide the pop-up so that they're ready to go. Just kind of want to make the experience for the users as nice and seamless as possible so that there's less clicks to get where they need to go. Okay, so let's see. So we talked about the invoice generation, customizing that, linking to the client and creating a new client if needed. Let's take a look at the data structure because this is really where a lot of this stuff comes together. The front end is just a matter of manipulating how you want to present that data. So a couple of important data types that we're working with here. Let's look at client. Here's the first one. So client has company name, contact, first and last name, our invoice prefix, which is a text, and then our next invoice number, which is a number so that we can do math with it, right? So we know that we can take whatever it is currently plus 1, and then we have our next number. And that way we combine the prefix with that next number, and then we have one string, and that's going to live in the work order data type. Okay, right here, invoice number. Notice that this is a text here so that we can combine the non-numerical prefix characters with the numerical characters. So a work order is going to have an amount paid. It's going to have a total amount. These are just some kind of initial common fields that we might find with this. Again, you build this out to suit your needs. If you're going to have a line item system, you might have another data type for line item. And then the work order can have a relationship with those line items. Images, file attachments, things like that, those can of course be added in here. So we also have a connection between the work order and a specific client. So it's a relationship there. This is not the client's name or their creation date or anything like that, their phone number. It's a relationship to the record itself. So the record contains all that detail. Due date for the work order, the status, which is pulling from our option set. Okay, so I'll jump over there real quick here. So we have a work order status, and these are all the different statuses that a work order can be. And we have a custom attribute for the color of the status so that we can color code things, right? So we can say anything in progress is going to show up as blue. If you have like a calendar and you want to display work orders, on their due dates or just kind of last milestone, whatever it might be, you can color code where those things are on a calendar as well. And just visually, it really helps users, consume the data more easily. Okay. And if we take a look at our app data, just our actual tables here are our clients, right? We have 5 of them. There's the prefix. I don't have any contact names for any of them, but let's edit one of them. Let's edit Acme here, and let's give this a contact name of George Washington. I have not edited my styles for when this is in focus. You definitely have control over that. Let me hit save here. Okay, and then I'm just going to update or refresh my table, and we should see, let's see, I did not update it. So let's take a look. Oh no, there it is, George Washington. Might need to refresh the table like this. There we go, there it is. All right, so those are my clients, and if I go over to the work orders, here we have 10 entries, and you can see all of the data there. So here is a good little indicator to tell you that this is a relationship to another record. It's really showing me the unique ID that Bubble generates for every single record. By the way, there is a built-in unique ID system. And this shows me the unique ID of that client record. Now, when I'm looking at my data here, I can also change the primary field to something else that makes it, easier for me to understand. The string of numbers might not mean anything or be very helpful for me. So I can change the primary field of the client to the company name and not the unique ID. And so here it's more useful for me to see, oh, okay, this work order is for Acme, Zoombox, and so on. So that's a quick look at records management for an ERP system. Again, it really comes down to data manipulation, being able to create, edit, delete, all of your standard data functions, and then presenting the data in a way that makes it easy for your users to work with. There's a lot of niche customizations that you can put in here. It just really depends on the industry that this ERP is for, the needs of the data, but you have all the tools available to you to create these connections, to be able to customize different things, make it easy for the user to search, filter, identify, associate, assign, all of that stuff. So hopefully this was helpful to see kind of an example here. Take what you've learned here and start applying this to your own ERP systems. And we will see you in the next video when we talk about our next must-have feature for ERP apps. All right, see you everybody.